Hi, Heart Room friends. Nice to see you. We have Elefante here with us today. And we're reading the BFG. We're on page 93 if you want to follow along, and if you don't have your own copy, feel free to draw or just lay back and listen. Save me, screamed the flesh lump eater. Have mercy on this poor little giant, the beanstalk. He's coming at me with his terrible spike-sticking beanstalk. Take it away. I is begging you, Jack. I is praying you do not touch me with your terrible spike-sticking beanstalk. Us giants, the BFG whispered, is not knowing very much about this dreaded human being called Jack. We is knowing only that he is a famous giant killer and that he is owning something called a beanstalk. Do you know who he's talking about? We is knowing also that the beanstalk is a fearsome thing and Jack is using it to kill giants. Sophie couldn't stop smiling. What is you griggling at? The BFG asked her, tightly nettled. I'll tell you later, Sophie said. The awful nightmare had now gripped the great brute to such an extent that he was tying his whole body into knots. Do not do it, Jack, he screeched. I was not eating you, Jack. I is never eating human beings. I swear I never gobbled a single human being in my wholesome life. Liar, said the BFG. Just then, one of the flesh lump eater's flailing fists caught the still fast asleep, meat-dripping giant smack in the mouth. At the same time, one of his furiously thrashing legs kicked the snoring, gizzard-gulping giant right in the guts. Both the injured giants woke up and leapt to their feet. He is swiping me right in the mouth, yelled the meat dripper. He is bunk swaddling me, smack in the guts, shouted the gizzard gulper. Two of them rushed at the flesh lump eater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched flesh lump eater woke up with a bang. He awoke straight from one nightmare to another. He roared into battle, and in the bellowing, thumping, rough and tumble that followed, one sleeping giant after another either got stepped upon or kicked. Soon all 9 of them were on their feet, having the mostly almighty free-for-all. They punched and kicked and scratched and, oh my goodness, look at the giants. Can you see them? Holy moly. And they bit and butted each other as hard as they could. Blood flowed. Noses went crunch. Teeth fell out like hailstones. The giants roared and screamed and cursed, and for many minutes the noise of battle rolled across the yellow plain. The BFG smiled a big, wide smile of absolute pleasure. I is loving it when they is having a good tough and rumble, he said. They'll kill each other, Sophie said. Never, the BFG answered. Those beasts is always bishing and walloping at one another. Soon it will be getting dusky, and they will be galloping off to fill their tummies. They're coarse and foul and filthy, Sophie said. I hate them. As the BFG headed back to the cave, he said quietly, We certainly was putting that nightmare to good use, though, wasn't we? Excellent use, Sophie said. Well done. Now we're on a chapter called Dreams, so we'll start our chapter called Dreams. The big friendly giant was seated at the great table in his cave, and he was doing his homework. Sophie sat cross-legged on the tabletop nearby, watching him at work. The glass jar containing the one and only good dream they had caught that day stood between them. The BFG, with great care and patience, was printing something on a piece of paper with an enormous pencil. What are you writing? Sophie asked him. Every dream is having its special label on the bottle, the BFG said. How else could I be finding the one I'm wanting in a hurry? But can you really truly tell what sort of dream it's going to be simply by listening to it? Sophie asked. I can, the BFG said, not looking up. But how? Is it by the way it hums and buzzes? You is less or more right, the BFG said. Every dream in the world is making a different sort of buzzy hum music, and these grand, swashbuckling ears of mine is able to read that music. By music, do you mean tunes? I is not meaning tunes. Then what do you mean? Human beings is having their own music, right or left? Right, Sophie said. Lots of music. And sometimes human beings is very overcome when they is hearing wondrous music. They is getting shivers right down their spindles, right or left? Right, said Sophie. So the music is saying something to them. It is sending a message. I do not think the human beings is knowing what the message is, but they is loving it just the same. That's about right, Sophie said. But because these jump-squiffling ears of mine, the BFG said, I is not only able to hear the music that dreams is making, but I is understanding it also. What do you mean understanding it? Sophie said. I can read it, the BFG said. It talks to me. It's like a language. Look how cute Sophie and the BFG are talking about the dreams. I find that just a little hard to believe, Sophie said. I'll bet you was finding it hard to believe in Quogwinkles, the BFG said. And Howley is visiting us from the stars. Of course I don't believe that, Sophie said. The BFG regarded her gravely with those huge eyes of his. I hope you will forgive me, he said, if I tell you that human beings is thinking they is very clever. They is not. They is nearly all of them not muchers and squeak quips. I beg your pardon, Sophie said. The matter with human beings, the BFG went on, is that they absolutely refusing to believe in anything unless it is actually seeing it right in front of their own snozzles. Of course, Quogwinkles is existing. I is meeting them oftenly. I is even chittering to them. He turned away contemptuously from Sophie and resumed his writing. Sophie moved over to read what he had written so far, and the letters were printed big and bold, but were not very well formed, and here is what it said on the bottle. This dream is about how I is saving my teacher from drowning. I is diving into the river from a high bridge, and I is dragging my teacher to the bank, and then I is giving him the kiss of death. The kiss of what? Sophie asked. The BFG stopped writing and raised his head slowly. His eyes rested on Sophie's face. I is telling you once before, he said quietly, that I is never having a chance to go to school. I is full of mistakes. They is not my fault. I do my best. You is a lovely little girl, but please remember that you is not exactly must know everything yourself. I'm sorry, Sophie said. I really am, but it is very rude of me to keep correcting you. The BFG gazed at her for a while longer, and then he bent his head to slow his laborious writing. Tell me honestly, Sophie said, if you blew this dream into my bedroom when I was asleep, would I really and truly start dreaming about how I saved my teacher from drowning by diving off of the bridge? More, the BFG said. A lot more. But I cannot be squiggling the whole flunking dream on a titty bit of paper. Of course there is more. The BFG laid down his pencil and placed one massive ear close to the jar. For about 30 seconds he listened intently. Yes, he said, nodding his great head solemnly up and down. This dream is continuing very nice. It has a very hunky-dory ending. How does it end? Sophie said. Please tell me. You would be dreaming, the BFG said, that the very morning after you was saving the teacher from the river, you was arriving at school and you was seeing all the 500 pupils sitting in the assembly hall and all of the teachers as well, and the head teacher is then standing up and saying, I is wanting the whole school to give 3 cheers for Sophie because she is so brave and is saving the life of our fine arithmetic teacher, Mr. Friggins, who was unfortunately pushed off the bridge into the river by our gym teacher, Miss Amelia Upscotch. So 3 cheers for Sophie, and the whole school is then cheering like mad and shouting, Bravo, well done. And forever after that, even when you was getting your sums all gunkswizzled and muggled up, Mr. Friggins is always giving you 10 out of 10 and writing good work, Sophie, in your exercise book. And then you was waking up. I like that dream, Sophie said. Of course you like it, the BFG said. It is a fizz wizard. He licked the back of the label and stuck it on the jar. I is usually writing a bit more than this on the labels, he said, but you was watching me and making me jumpsy. I'll go and sit somewhere else, Sophie said. Don't go, he said. Look in the jar carefully, and I is thinking that you will be seeing this dream. So we'll pause there for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, Heart Room friends. Elefante says bye too.